The past 12 months have brought a series of decisions and events that have begun to reshape the global balance of power. The year 2026 will show whether this process means stabilization or the beginning of an even more turbulent phase. The United States plays an important role in many key areas of the world as the main point of reference for diplomacy, international security, and, where necessary, military force.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
Donald Trump began his second term in the White House by announcing a rebuilding of the United States' international standing, pressure on allies, and tough negotiations with adversaries. The decisions made in Washington in 2025 have largely shaped the current international landscape and will influence what the coming months will bring.
China, first row.
The most important global front remains the rivalry between the United States and China. After the tariff war and tensions over Taiwan, relations between the two powers have entered a new, more diplomatic phase. In 2026, mutual visits by Donald Trump and Xi Jinping are possible, which could set the direction for relations in the coming years.
What's going to be agreed at those meetings? What kind of commercial truce might Presidents Trump and Xi seek, and at what cost? I'm particularly concerned about what President Trump might give up in other strategic areas having to do with AI, having to do with Taiwan, having to do with U.S. allies in the Indo-Pacific.
At the same time, China's relations with Japan, one of the U.S.'s most important allies in Asia, remain an important piece of the puzzle.
I think the Chinese government really do need to find ways to ease tensions with Japan, because China-Japan relationship is inherently a very emotional one in China anyway, even without the recent dispute with the Prime Minister.
The division of the world into two rival power blocs is also becoming increasingly clear. Symbolic images from Beijing, where Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, and President Xi appeared side by side, show the strengthening of cooperation between countries hostile to the West.
A long-term decline in the number of wars and number of people killed in wars, in the duration of war. And then from the Arab Spring, that began to change. We started to see more wars emerging. And 2024 was the highest number of state-to-state wars since the end of World War II. So this has been a really sort of global trend. And underpinning this is really been the end of Pax America and the relative decline of the US and the role of the US as a policeman and sort of backing up.
In the Middle East, the fragile truce in the Gaza Strip has not ended tensions. The region remains one of the most volatile in the world, and any incident could lead to escalation.
So I hope Iran is not trying to build up, as I've been reading, that they're building up weapons and other things. And if they are, they're not using the sites that we obliterated, but they're using possibly different sites. We know exactly where they're going, what they're doing, and I hope they're not doing it.
Houthi attacks, tensions surrounding Iran's nuclear program, and U.S. military involvement mean the Middle East remains one of the key challenges for American diplomacy. In Europe, the war in Ukraine is entering a new phase in which modern technologies, primarily combat drones and long-range missile systems, are decisive. Last night, Russia carried out another massive attack on Ukrainian cities, using drones and cruise missiles. In his New Year's address, the president of Ukraine emphasized that Kyiv remains ready for peace talks and an end to the war, provided this means real security guarantees.
Чого хоче Україна? Миру? Так. Чи будь-якою ціною? Ні. Ми хочемо закінчення війни, але не закінчення України. Чи втомились ми? Сильно. Чи значить це, що ми готові здатись? Сильно помиляється той, хто так думає.
Declarations of peace come at a time when Europe is increasingly preparing for a long-term change in the security environment, adapting its defense doctrines in the context of a possible reduction in U.S. involvement. Africa remains outside the mainstream of attention. Sudan is plunging into a humanitarian crisis, with millions of people left without access to basic aid. In Nigeria and the Sahel region, violence by Islamic terrorist groups is on the rise, raising fears of another wave of migration towards Europe. In a world full of tensions, there is also a symbol of continuity. Last year, the Catholic Church elected a new pope.
Symbol of the
His voice calls for dialogue and diplomacy at a time when more and more countries are resorting to force as their primary political tool.
Accostiamoci al presepe.
On this solemn day, at the beginning of the new year, let us approach this nativity scene with faith, as a place of true peace, a place of blessing, where we remember the miracles performed by the Lord. Then let us set out again, like the humble witnesses of the cave, praising God for all we have seen and heard. The year 2026 promises to be a time of rapid change on the political, military, and economic fronts. The world is entering a new phase of global competition, with the key question of whether diplomacy will prove stronger than weapons.